Welcome to Module 4. In the previous modules, we've covered what AI is, why it matters strategically, and how to use AI tools effectively. Now we need to address what keeps legal teams, compliance officers, and thoughtful leaders up at night. What can go wrong, and how do you protect your organization? I will be direct. The risks of AI are real. They're not reasons to avoid AI. The competitive risks of not adopting AI are also real, but they are reasons to adopt AI thoughtfully, with appropriate safeguards. That's what this module is about. We start with data privacy and security, the foundation of responsible AI use. When you use an AI tool, you're typically sending data to an external system. The data is processed on servers you don't control, by a company with its own policies and practices. Understanding what happens to your data and what could go wrong is essential. Let's break down the key risks. The most immediate risk is what you put into your prompts. Every time you type something into an AI tool, the text leaves your device and travels to the AI provider's servers. If your prompt contains confidential information, customer names, financial data, strategic plans, proprietary processes, that information is now outside of your direct control. This sounds obvious, but it's easy to forget in practice. An employee drafting an email might paste a customer's complaint, including their personal details. A manager analyzing sales data might upload a spreadsheet with client names and purchase history. A developer debugging code might share proprietary algorithms. Each of these actions create potential exposure. The question is, what happens to that data once it reaches the AI provider? This brings us to the second risk, whether your inputs might be used to train AI models. Different providers have different policies, and those policies vary by subscription tier, as we've discussed before. On free tiers and some consumer plans, providers may use your conversations to improve their models. This means your inputs could, in theory, influence responses given to other users, including competitors. The major providers have generally stated they don't use business data this way, but the specifics matter and policies can change. Enterprise tiers typically include explicit contractual guarantees that your data will not be used for model training. This is one of the key reasons organizations pay for enterprise plans, not just for features, but for data protection guarantees. The lesson here: know your provider's data policy for your specific tier. Don't assume. Read the terms or have your legal team read them. The third risk concerns how long providers retain your data and where it's stored. AI providers typically retain conversation data for some period, sometimes to provide features like conversation history, sometimes for abuse prevention, sometimes for model improvement. For organizations subject to data localization requirements, where data must remain within certain geographic boundaries, the location of AI servers matter. If you're a European company subject to GDPR and your data is processed on servers in the United States, that creates compliance considerations. Again, enterprise agreements often provide more control here: specified retention periods, data residency options, and deletion guarantees. But you need to ask the right questions and get the right answers in writing. The fourth risk is security vulnerabilities, not in your systems, but in the AI provider systems. Like any technology company, AI providers can be targets for cyber attacks. A breach in a major AI provider could potentially expose conversation data from many organizations. Again, this isn't a reason to avoid AI. Every technology vendor carries some security risk, but it is a reason to evaluate providers' security practices. Look for recognized certifications, which indicate that an independent auditor has verified the provider's security controls. Ask about encryption practices, access controls, and incident response procedures. The fifth risk is one that organizations often underestimate: shadow AI. This is when employees use AI tools that haven't been approved or vetted by the organization. It's entirely natural. An employee discovers that ChatGPT helps them draft emails faster, so they start using it. They're not trying to create risk. They're trying to be more productive. But if they're using a free tier with no data protection guarantees, and they're inputting customer information or confidential business data, they may be creating significant exposure without realizing it. Shadow AI is particularly challenging because it's invisible to IT and compliance teams. You can't manage what you can't see. The solution isn't to ban AI. That rarely works and often just drives usage further underground. The solution is to provide approval alternatives that meet security requirements while still being useful, combined with clear policies and training. Now, let me give you a practical framework for managing these risks. First, classify your data. Not all data carries the same risk. Public information, internal working documents, confidential business data, and regulated personal data all have different risk profiles. Create clear categories and guidance on what can be and cannot be used with AI tools. Second, choose appropriate tools for appropriate uses. A free tier might be fine for brainstorming ideas or drafting generic content, but anything involving customer data, financial information, or strategic plans should only go through enterprise-grade tools with proper data protection agreements. Third, establish clear policies. Your people need to know what's allowed and what isn't. Create simple, practical guidelines. What data can be used with AI? Which tools are approved? What review is required for different use cases? We'll cover this in an upcoming lecture. Fourth, train your people. Policies only work if people understand them. Include AI data handling in your security awareness training. Make sure employees understand not just the rules, but the reasoning behind them. Fifth, monitor and adapt. The AI landscape is evolving rapidly. Provider policies change. New risks emerge. Build in regular reviews of your AI governance practices, at least annually, probably more frequently. Let me leave you with a grounding thought. Data privacy and security risks in AI are real, but they're manageable. They're similar in nature to risks you already manage with other technology vendors. Cloud services, SaaS applications, outsourced processing. The principles are the same. Understand what data goes where, ensure appropriate protections are in place, and maintain oversight. The organizations that succeed with AI won't be those that avoid it out of fear. They'll be those that adopt it thoughtfully with clear-eyed awareness of the risks and practical measures to address them. In the next lecture, we'll look at legal considerations, intellectual property, liability, and contracts. These build directly on what we've covered here.